Well, hello. It's DNN Dave. Hope everybody's doing well. We got a crew here tonight. We got Ryan Moore, got Jeremy Farrance, got Jim Peterson, got Daniel Velez, got Mark Gilsey. I think some other people are going to join, so it's nice to see everybody online tonight. I've got some amazing news for you all, and you're just not going to believe it. Remember DNN soon? Well, it's now DNN now. DNN 10 has released. So congratulations to anybody and everybody that was a part of that effort. That was a huge undertaking. And I guess you just have to go and download it and install it somewhere and play with it and kind of see for yourself. But it's a lot of cool stuff in there. We won't go through all the stuff that was there, because we've done that leading up to the launch of DNN 10. You can go back and check some of those YouTube videos, but we real thrilled about it. And so far, the world is not broken as a result of it. That being said, we're changing up tonight just a little bit. Don't worry if you came here for Cloudflare. I don't know, there might be a little bit for it at the end, but
we can always do that later.
Given the release of DNN 10, we've been seeing a lot of activity in Discord, especially of people upgrading and running into scenarios and things like that. And Jeremy Farrance was so kind to say, hey, can we switch gears and let me do something different for this one? And kind of walk through some of the things that he has found and have other people chime in and share things that they have found through all this, and really just kind of help each other out along the way here. Maybe you'll pick up some tips that'll help you in your journey to DNN 10. So we'll jump into that a little bit later on. And if you haven't figured out already, I'm driving. So I got my time zones mixed up. And yeah, I'm not to my destination just yet, so I'm not sharing a screen. That said, I think Ryan Moore is all ready to jump in and share screen and talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's been going on in the community before Jeremy gets started with his part. So without further ado, Ryan Moore, everybody. Woohoo!
David, able to concentrate on the road, enjoy the adventure of travel that he has ahead of him, and give a warm kickoff to an exciting Southern Fried DNN user group meeting. So that is some mastery of development and driving all there at one time. Within the community, to David's point as the kickoff, the main important and exciting thing that has occurred in the last several days is the release of DNN 10. We're going to get more in depth into a practical hands-on exploration of that DNN 10 here when Jeremy's session starts. But let's talk a little bit about some other community things that have happened around the same time. First off, everybody know that within the southernfriedDNN.com website, we keep updating it with information and things that are posted here. We obviously have our video channels. We have DNN Dave with his channels. We have content that we post onto the DNN community website. But we do have some things here on Southern Fried DNN that we try to keep updated. And one of the things that I wanted to call a little attention to, especially within this group of people who are both here online tonight and will be joining us online later, is that we have in this Southern Fried location a history of .NET Nuke. This is an interactive history timeline that we created several years back, and this version of this set of data of milestones and information of the history of DNN has been updated many different times, but it's also lived in a few different places. For a while, there was a copy of this on the DNN corporate website, on the DNNsoftware.com website. There's a version of this that has been running on the DNN community website for a long time. But with an eye to DNN 10 coming out, I started myself and my team updating this with some more information. And really, because it was a hobby or an item that we released at a point in time, it was sitting at about 2015, maybe 2016 was the latest date that it had present at one point in time. So we spent some time updating that, and it now goes all the way up to 2019. But after 2019, we need to fill this in with DNN summits, DNN connects, with corporate changes and partnerships and milestones within the DNN release. So I'll just put it out to you if you're interested in thinking a little bit critically about milestones that have occurred from, let's just say, 2019 to COVID 2020 forward, and you'd like to put a couple of bullet points together with me. I'm looking for some folks to help me out to kind of curate this and get this updated. Once we update it here, we're going to post it over to the DNN community website as well. So,
Brian, that is awesome, dude. That is cool that you guys are doing that.
Yep, haven't really touched it in quite a long time. So we spent, I don't know, a week or so on and off updating it with things that we gathered from lots of places. And if you are interested in helping us research or gather data, we know the things that people need to go and find. So if you're interested in helping, just let me know and I'll put you to a task or two and get you some access.
Brian, I'll be glad to help with some of those dates and things like that.
I was
that
really
would be
thinking about you and Valadas and helping me whittle down, all of the things that I could imagine important, but that you might think, only some specific things were truly milestones. So yes, would love that help. Switching over to the DNN community website, we have a few blog posts that have occurred since our last meeting. Obviously, with DNN 10 released, we have some new information that has shown up in the blog posts from that. Timo wrote an article in which he was talking about the release of DNN 10 and what that meant. We've had some good comments there. I encourage you to, as you're starting to get your feet wet with doing upgrades and doing things within DNN 10, come back into the blogs and in these areas and comment and discuss. Remember that discussions in Discord, discussions in Slack, those kind of disappear over time or they get buried. But coming out here to DNN community, whether you're in the forums or the blogs, those tend to persist over time. And if you have good comments or thoughts and suggestions, you can bring them out here and put them into the articles from things that people are posting. There's also a recent article that was posted by Will Stroll where he's mentioning some new things that he's doing with Upendo and the way he's managing some things for support that he's giving to people. He also gives some information about the Glanton modules, which is interesting because I have had people ask about updates to those and whether the traditional older ones were still running and had any issues or needed updates. So do check out that article if you're interested in learning a little bit about what Will Stroll's been up to recently. With that, I'll turn it over to the group of people who are online with us tonight. Does anyone have community-related DNN ecosystem information that you think we should stop off on or that we missed talking about today? If so, let's pass it over to you for a minute.
I know Daniel's working on some cool stuff. You might want to share.
Yes, I am. It's not complete yet. It's still a work in progress, but if you have been using DNN Elements, which is a component library that was built completely from scratch and is used in multiple modules in DNN and can be used with any framework or without the framework, they're basically web components. Because it was started from scratch, there was a lot of things to figure out, and it's been version 0 dot something for quite a while. We had to do a couple breaking changes along that 0 something path, and it's always been a bit of a pain to manage those, because if you have 100 buttons in your solution, it's a lot of things to go change because of a little change in the UI. I just built an ESLint plugin. So if you're on any type of build system where ESLint is available, it will give errors on all of these deprecations. And for most of them, we'll also provide an auto fixer. So you just run ESLint, and if you have 1,000 buttons or 3 buttons, they all get fixed at once. It will be documented when I'm finished because I am doing this on a per version basis. So the fixes will evolve together with the version of the library. And it's gonna basically be like DNN, upgrade to the latest major before
Yeah.
going next major, except since we're on 0, it's gonna be minors. So if you go to the latest minor of each of the 0 dot somethings and set up ESLint, most of the stuff just gets fixed for you, and it's a 5-minute ordeal instead of spending all day on that.
So
Yeah, to
And
get through it.
one example is like you well, both be a good one, Dan. Like button changing a property got changed to be a little bit more like the native or to match native
right.
properties, and it changed from appearance to type. And that would have been a breaking change for people. So now this will auto fix that property for you. You don't have to know, didn't have to actually touch the code. So that's kind of cool.
Exactly. So talking about the button, we use type to define how the button looked, like primary, secondary, tertiary. But an HTML button, the type means what it does for the form. Is it a submit? Is it a reset? Or is it just a plain button? So we wanted to match the specs as close as possible. And in 0.23, I think, we implemented full form integration. So all these components can be used as part of form validation, and we wanted to be close to spec, so we decided to deprecate the meaning of type to appearance, and later on redefine type to be the actual type of button for the form. So there's like 2 breaking changes on the button.
Okay. Took me a moment to find the right location to bring up on screen, but one of the things
Yep.
I did while I was gathering that and bringing it up was just on the DNN community website. There are only a couple of articles about DNN elements, and the most recent one was a year or two ago. So I feel like that's a good source for a future article and for a deep dive later at Southern Fried in a few months. So we'll make sure that you're not going anywhere and you can come back and give us a deep
Totally.
dive later, right?
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, then, we've kind of run through a few different things within the DNN community. It is the end of April here as we get into the rest of spring with May and hit the summer. So this is a business-focused time period. People are updating their websites, they're refreshing designs. I've been doing DNN updates and security like crazy. So it seems to be a good season for that right now, and it couldn't be better news to get some tips on DNN 10 related things from Jeremy Farrance. So,
Hey,
Jeremy,
hey Ryan, before we jump into that, sorry,
uh-huh.
I just wanted to point out that DNN Connect is coming up really soon as well.
Yes, good point.
So you might want to kind of bring that one up. Just, if anybody's interested in going, it's still a possibility. It's a great trip. It's in Girona, Spain this
Yeah.
year. And it's not too late to get in. Registration's open. Their call for speakers is open. So jump in, take a trip across the pond.
That's a really good point. We need to mention that. It is, if you've been to DNN summits or any of our networking focused conferences here in the United States, it's a different speed when you get out to the Europe. I haven't been myself, but I enjoy listening to the stories that are there, and it's a different kind of camaraderie. And a lot of it's around, spending time with your friends and your colleagues here and doing a little bit of something inside of DNN. So it's an entertaining time and a different kind of environment. And if you're like me, stressed out and doing a lot of business development right now, taking a little break and going across the pond sounds pretty nice. Sounds pretty nice. Well,
It
then,
also is a great place, Ryan, to to brush up on all your different languages that you want to learn how to speak, because in any given opportunity, you will hear about 5 or 6 languages going on, right?
Sweet. That's excellent. Um, but language is not a barrier. Everyone there is going to have you go through in English just fine, and in Girona, Spain, then you're going to be in an environment to hear a lot of fantastic, although a Castilian Spanish. So that's going to be part of the atmosphere. All right. Well then, David, any other notes you want to mention as we tee up Jeremy? Otherwise, we'll get Jeremy ready to share screen and come on.
Nope, all good. Take it
All
away,
right.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, I've paused sharing my screen. Pass it over to you.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
You sound fantastic.
I don't know about that. All right. Well, I'm recovering from messing something up just 5 minutes ago. So,
That's always the timing with a good presentation.
well, I don't know about good. So, right now, let me get my screen shared. Oh, wrong one. Correct one.
There we go. We got your screen.
All right. Pretty good. So, um, let's see. What do we got here?
And no, I'm not trying to read your screen, Jeremy. Just
Oh,
saying.
I'm not worried about that. I got everything's pretty clear. There's nothing secret going on.
He
So,
was driving.
anyhow, the subject tonight is
We know your
upgrading
IP
to
address is
DNN.
127.0.0.1 though.
Oh, that was my big secret right there. All right, so we're talking about DNN 10 upgrades, and I wanted to kind of talk through the process and the thinking. And let's see, I'm just going to start with some key steps and rules, and we're just going to talk them through. I'm not sure what I should even have on screen yet, but we are going to do, or at least attempt to do, an actual upgrade of a site. So, some of the key stuff that I think a lot of people already know, but need to take seriously and slow down, because DNN gets rid of a lot of DLLs and things change. A lot of people are going to stumble over stuff and discover things. First time I tried it, I ran into 2 things I didn't expect, and I thought I knew everything. So, but there's a few things you should approach to do as you approach this ahead of time. First thing is, get your DNN site in front of you. That is something I can do right here. There, that's on screen. This is the site we're going to be upgrading. And this is a clone of the site already. So you'll notice I'm not secure up here in the SSL, but I did do my host overrides. So I'm pointing to the server I have it running on. I'm already logged in, tested a few things. Now, the first thing you'll notice is I'm on 9.11.02. So step 1, well, actually, sorry, let me get back to my list. You need to verify your third-party modules, your theme, and any other extensions have a DNN 10 release. I've noticed on Discord a couple people jumped in already and didn't think about the vendors and did an upgrade, but the vendors weren't ready and they had a module installed that wasn't ready for DNN 10. We've mostly eliminated that, and that's just a personal choice for us as a business. We've gotten rid of most vendor modules. We still use Evotiva Backup. We still use Evotiva Backup, Easy DNN Solutions. We use their news, maps, gallery, and 1 or 2 others like MailChimp and Maps and stuff, things like that. But making sure that you've got your modules in order and you know they're going to work on DNN 10 is really important. And I don't want to stress how important this is to realize you're about to go into an upgrade situation that might not have just one problem. Just to verify, you guys can hear me still?
Yeah, and
Yep, you're
Jeremy,
good.
one thing you may want to mention is that you mentioned Easy DNN Solutions. I did see that they put out a notice that all of their stuff was DNN 10 compatible now, so you may want to upgrade theirs.
Yep, that
Yep.
is excellent of them. I really appreciate Demir being right on top of that. I
Yep.
hope
If you
others
have a
follow suit
license,
soon.
if you have a license of theirs and are on their mailing lists, they're pretty good about sending out emails to announce their new releases. And to David's point, within the last weekend or two, there were promotions that described that they are now all fully ready for DNN 10.
All right, so another key point, the one you hear the most is make a backup. And along the way, you're going to make more than one backup, or at least that would be the recommended process. You know, for us, we're taking this seriously because we probably have somewhere between 40 to 60 of these that are going to get done over the next 1 to 3 months. So we're really making sure that we understand the correct order to do the steps in, what the quick fixes are for common problems, and that's one of the reasons we're jumping on this early. So next thing after the backup is to say out loud and make you think about it. You don't actually have a backup if you don't know how to restore it. Make sure you're comfortable with it, that you've done it before. And we've even got our process set up so that we actually use our real backup to create the clone, which again is our recommended process. You clone the site to another location. That's why we do host overrides to point to the new location. And then we start the upgrade. Another key piece on modules, extensions, everything. Uninstall anything that's not in use. And this is worth spending time on. What's really important about modules that are not in use is you probably haven't upgraded them. And if they're really old, they will almost certainly cause you problems when DNN 10 tries to start up with all those missing methods and DLLs. So you also want to, after you verify that you can get to DNN 10 on your modules, upgrade all your modules to the DNN 10 version. That seems pretty obvious, but I'm saying it because it's on my list. After you do all that and you've got your site completely updated, the next thing you want to do is make another backup. And yes, you made one before you started, but now you've made changes. And before you start the process of upgrading DNN 10, you need to make another backup. The reason for that is if it goes wrong and you have to do some retries, which I got to tell you is very likely, you're going to want to go back to the version you backed up after you did all that work. Those first 4 or 5 steps I mentioned could take you an hour, could take you half an hour. You don't want to go back and redo those every time. So make another backup and start working from there. So then the step after that backup is to make a clone and start working again from the other location. Okay, so like I said when I started, I messed up something about 5 minutes before I was about to do this. So we do not have this site yet upgraded to 9.13.08, which is required. So let's see how fast that goes. I have everything ready to go in front of me. I am on the correct server. That's always worth checking. Right, Jared? Okay, thanks.
I don't know if you have that on your list or not, but one thing also, if the site was given to me and I don't have the history of the site, I always check before any upgrade the install folder under modules and skins and stuff like this. If
Yep.
there's any zip file in there, they will install automatically.
Yeah, I
Not
haven't.
resources file done, but that zip do. I know I've been given sites and like scratch my head a lot.
Yeah, you're right. I actually should have done that first. I like that one. I haven't done that in years, and I remember it used to be on my list.
Mhm.
When inheriting sites, I get this all the time, and the number of times you'll get a DNN 8 or a DNN 9 site, and you look and they're filled with folders there or zips there that are intended for DNN 6 or 7,
Yeah.
and they won't install fully. They just make a mess, and they
Yeah.
start or they try and then they fail, and you're like, of course they failed. It's not even for the right DNN version. So yeah, clean that up. Is
Oh,
one of
and
my
I'll
things.
add one that goes right in line with this. Go, if you've done this a lot, a lot of people have a good, I think, eye for what the bin folder should look like. Go in the
Mhm.
bin folder and just start scanning through here. And since we're doing a presentation, I'm going to show you one of my hottest tips. A lot of people don't know this, but in Windows File Explorer, you can actually go more. I clicked on the header row. You can go down here 7 times and you will get to file version. Turn that on and gold. You now see the file version of every single DLL. There's a few
Oh,
exceptions,
That's a
but
really nice tip.
if you did
this
not
is
know
great.
this,
I
please
did
write
not.
it down. I actually, I only learned this by accident about a year and a half ago. It saves me so much time.
That's awesome, Trick.
Thank you. I'm glad I remembered to include that. You get the credit for it though, because you told me about check your install, and that reminded me to check the bin folder. So as you saw, I copied this stuff in. We're going to switch back to our machine with the host override.
Hey, Jeremy, one thing too, I was just thinking about that sometimes really stops people is they got to do an upgrade. This site that you've inherited, someone you've never really worked on it before, or you're doing it for a client. And then you come to realize, oh, it's a multi-portal site. Did not know that, and you thought it was just one. So that's a good thing to just be aware of doing.
Yeah, I've never, other than our own stuff, I've never been handed one that's already multi-portal, but that's another good one. You just really got to know what you're dealing with when you start. All right, so this is a normal upgrade. We're going from 9.11.2 to 9.13.08. And like I said, I've already done this, so if something goes wrong, I'll be kind of surprised. Should be a fairly fast machine, so we shouldn't have to do a lot of waiting.
Well, you're doing it live, so something's bound to go wrong because you're doing it live.
Please don't. I already had to go wrong 5 minutes before I started, so I want to believe I'm done now, but while that's running, also in the background, I really got to say this out loud. Don't panic. I mean, and don't even wear your peril sensitive sunglasses. Just don't panic. When something goes wrong after you click this button, whether you're upgrading to 9.13.8 or 10, the real thing to do is be clear-headed, no fear, and start looking for the clues. There's always good clues. I've even had ones where I had a white screen in front of me. But as we're going to get to in a little while, I'm going to show you some of the places you can go look for what went wrong.
Or you can just use the method that I use and bypass the wizard altogether and see really what's happening right as it happens.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. You're going to have to tell me that one.
With the
What do you
install
mean?
mode upgrade?
Right.
Yeah.
I've always used the wizard. I've never not used it. What are you talking about?
All right, you
So
continue going on. We'll show it in a minute.
if you use /install/install.aspx $mode equals upgrade, it will write out every step of the upgrade process to you on your screen.
Is that hidden somewhere in the documentation?
There are a couple of key extra things that the install can do with the mode method, which is including install resources and upgrade. And so, yeah, it's kind of hidden in the documentation, but it's a long-standing one. About the only thing that fouls it up is if you have a server where after you do your upgrades, your install file disappears from the install folder. So sometimes you have to drop one back in there, but if I have, for instance, certain Sharp modules which need to be installed 4 or 5 at a time together, and you can't install one without also installing the others, you can't go through an iterative process. So you put all the zips into the modules folder and then run the mode install resources, and it'll install them all at one time. Also, it's fantastic for upgrades because like David was describing, it shows everything there on the screen, and it will show you when there's an error and what it stopped on. Obviously, you can go get those things from the logs, from the physical file logs that are generated.
Right.
but it shows it to you on screen.
The
That's
one
cool.
caveat
It's one of
for
the
that,
reasons I wanted to do this was so that I'm actually, I want to learn new things. Every time we do one of these, new stuff comes up that I didn't know, and that's excellent.
one of the caveats to get that to work though is your web config has to have auto upgrade equals true. And typically you don't want to leave your sites with that on.
There.
So, setting that to true before you do the upgrade, then it'll work. And then you set it to false after you get done with the upgrade.
All right. So, normally, like I said, you would upgrade your modules to the latest. Like I said before, I've already done this one, so I'm not gonna upgrade too sexy. I'm not gonna do this point upgrade here because I know this upgrade's gonna work with or without those. Normally, you should absolutely definitely do that, but I'm trying to save a little time here. One of the other things I have noticed over the years is that people can panic at this screen. Notice it's gotten a little messy over the years with these odd numbers appearing. So if you are not used to this, one of the things I like to recommend to people is notice that I just upgraded to 9, 13, 8. Can you guys see that okay? That probably helps. And we've
Yeah, the
also got
zoom
a
is
few
good.
modules. We've got a few modules at 932. That's perfectly normal. So what I tell people to do is use Control F, type 9.13.8, and now go down the page, ignore those, and just pay attention to the other ones. So I've got an old install of live forms on here that I'm not using. Normally I would uninstall that, but like I said, I know this works, so I'm not worried about it. These 932s we ignore, but you can see I've only got 1, 2, 3.5 things to worry about. And it really helps. A lot of people have sites with dozens of non-DNN core extensions, and you do need to pay attention to what's going on here. But does everyone understand where these are coming from? Is that worth talking about for a second? Anybody want to know?
Yeah, yes, just for the viewing public, especially for things where
Sure.
you'll see them as 99999, and you know that the highest version is not 99999.
All right. Well, the strange thing about the website, it's something like dnn.something.io, the website that stores the new versions that are compared with this, for some reason, and it's never been fixed, if you install your own custom version of the member directory at 10.04 and you install it on your machine, when your machine says hello to that API, it sends your version and that becomes the new next version. So I am the person who made a 1.0.9 version of Upendo's user manager. And you'll notice anyone who installs 1.0 through it's at 1. Maybe 1.4 or 2.4 now, but you'll see 1.0.9 over there, and that's my fault. I did that years ago. So I don't know if it's ever going to get fixed, but someone somewhere made a version, booted up DNN, and now it's in the updates thing. I don't know how else to describe it, but there is a way to find the right person and ask them to fix it, but I don't think that's a good idea for that person to be
Well,
doing that often. So
There is no
well,
great
there
fix.
really is no fix. It's
Hmm.
just not the best architected solution. So
yeah, exactly.
there's a temporary fix, but it's only temporary. So
Yeah, as soon as it gets reindexed, it gets replaced. One of the ideas that was shuffled around was to allow module vendors to provide a link where to check for upgrades. And that would be just a link. So you click and you go read, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Right. I know what I said a little while ago, but I'm actually gonna go do this one because I'm slightly worried about the man deeps part of the upgrade. So back to my list, before I said don't panic. Identify problems, find the details, fix what you can. As you make progress, think about it, stop and make an additional backup. Every time you save yourself the last 10 or 15 minutes as you're working through multiple problems, um, later when something goes wrong, you're going to thank yourself because you have a more recent restore to go to. And that way you also don't have to keep copious notes on what to redo. I have done extremely complicated ones where I had to do a spreadsheet with multiple tries and different modules across different versions. And the only thing that saved me eventually and got me to the finish line was stopping every so often and just doing a backup almost for no reason so that I could restore back to that. I think the most complicated one I ever did was a nonstop effort for 7.5 hours. It was a pretty cool adventure, and I got to the finish line and got paid good money for it. All right. We're just waiting for that to finish. And one more install, and then we're going to cut straight to the DNN 10. Let me go make sure I'm prepped for that. In this folder, we already have DNN 10 downloaded and unzipped to a folder ready to copy. All right. We're gonna.
Jeremy, if you're kind of holding for some time, let me ask you a question so that you can answer it and give your opinions on it.
Yep.
I've had clients ask me about whether they should uninstall DNN core modules or elements which they know they're not using. What's your take on that, especially as we do a major version change like 10?
Well, you'll notice when you get to the extensions screen, a lot of them can't be uninstalled. The delete's missing. There is a way to go change the data so that you can do that. I don't recommend it. In general, I leave them alone, but also I have to mention 8 years ago, there were quite a few core modules that I just didn't like, and I went out of my way and deleted them to get them out of the way for upgrades. So there is that's a very valid comment, and I used to do it. I don't feel it's as necessary anymore. Um, I just haven't run into a situation in a long time where I've felt the need to get rid of something that DNN is managing and I'm not going to worry about. I think I used to get rid of the journal, the message center. I used to get rid of that module no one ever used for like
Journal.
no the one where you could edit and make a module.
Oh yeah,
Like,
module creator. Yeah.
that's it. I used to definitely get rid
It's
of
no
that
longer
one.
part of new installs.
Yeah, I noticed. I was happy. All right. So, that's an interesting question. Once you know your multiple versions past Telerik removal, is there any reason to leave these on board? It is safe to uninstall that, right? Do you guys know?
It is. I think when you upgrade to 10, it gets uninstalled if memory serves good.
Yeah, and I think even if I uninstall it now, 10's going to install it again anyhow, or at least its version. I don't
No.
remember.
I
No?
I think if you delete it now, it will install it, run it, and then uninstall it. Something along those lines. But Telerik removal is enforced in 10, and part of the code is there. I think, no, we made the code in the library. So yeah, I think either way, you're fine.
Okay, good. All right. Just spinning this one last time to make sure we're working. You can see that spinning is what I mean by that. Good. By the way, this is pronounced racehorses. That's a nod to my girlfriend from 20 years ago, who always corrected me. All right. We are going to proceed. And it's as simple as this. You unzip it into a folder. You get the root of the site in front of you. Get them all selected. One of the things newbies do that they don't know is they will accidentally choose cut and paste, which does a move. If you don't know the difference between move and copy in Windows, move will overwrite permissions and attempt to merge with the source folder. But since you're running under IIS and you have very specific permissions, you want to copy, and then Windows knows to let the files and folders that are being copied into place inherit from the folders above. Hopefully I explained that well enough, but that's why I always
Yes, good
do
description.
a right click. No, you can't see me hitting the right button, but I do a right click, drag and release, and then I notice the default is move. I intentionally, every time, choose copy. That way you don't make a mistake. So there's another hot tip for you if you don't do that. It's horrible when you suddenly get surprise permissions running under IIS. Those are hard to debug. And just for fun, I'm going to take a look and see if this one's not set up correctly. So, but we're not going to worry about that. Probably not going to come back to that detail. You got to admit, this is pretty exciting getting to DNN 10, right? All right, that looks good. And let's get hijacked into an installer. One of the interesting things to realize is, okay, well, let's start right in. So we have a situation where we know something's gone wrong at a pretty low level, but we're not seeing the real error because I am on my machine here, and this is the remote server in another location, up in the cloud. So once you see this, you need to go to that machine. Let me make sure I'm host overridden. There we go. Yep, I'm host overridden. Good. So now we're going to bring this site up locally on the server. And we don't worry about that because we're a clone. And just to show you side by side, which not many people get to see very often, but here's what the public would see. Nothing bad showing, nothing secret. And over here, this is what I mean is details. So the first one we're running into here is because Acurity for years did a library of functions that we left in the app code folder. So if we needed to do a whole bunch of different user-related things that were specific to DNN, you don't need that. In the app code folder, you'll see various versions here, but this one is saying that get current user info in AccuKit 11 CSHTML line 118. So we're going to open that file. And can you guys see that well? I forgot this thing recently switched to an odd.
Yes, that helps a bunch.
Okay, there we go.
Even better. Lovely.
All right, now we're going to go to line 118 and look at it. And again, I've already done this. So here's the offending line of code. And what we've run into first is this DLL and the way this is called is no longer in here. I've already got, I already looked this one up. Actually, this is one of the few that I knew, but this is one of those ones you can fix quickly just by adding instance. Daniel or David, is it worth explaining what's happening there?
I'm thinking this needs a blog article so we We can all reference it in Google searches because that's
Okay.
invaluable.
Right.
Mm.
So here's the blog article that I've been writing. It probably won't get released for a few days. I need to finish a lot of stuff, but that'll be in there.
Yeah, so basically user controller used to be a static class, and then at some point in DNN, we have created dot instance on a lot of those static objects, so that basically it returns you an instance of that class instead of being a static class.
Yeah.
And then later, we started using dependency injection. So this pattern, now you would use the interface user controller with dependency injection. So it's just changes of patterns, and everything in DNN 10 that was marked as obsolete in DNN 8 and earlier has been pulled out. So before, if you would compile this, you would get just a warning, and now it just doesn't work because it was removed.
Exactly. And just to point out, though Daniel's correct that the most modern version of this not doesn't require, but needs dependency injection. In this case, I want to point out to people that the code in this folder is probably not being used much on this site anymore. When we included this library of files, you can see the function being called is super. So we would do accukit.isSuper, or we could do accukit.isEnroll, or all these different functions. This goes on for quite a while with all these lazy things we did in the past. So what I'm saying is this line of code's not even used. So my goal right here is to get this file to compile. So now you'll notice, and this is one of the important things I want to emphasize, is I'm going to hit save. I'm going to go back here. Oh, no, I'm going to go to this one. And notice it says line 118 right now. I'm going to reload. And it's not the only case in this file. So we got to go. Notice now I'm on line 159. So all I need to do is get through this file quickly so it compiles. And I just want to point out, these aren't even being used. We're just trying to get the compiler to finish, because if the compiler can't finish, as you can see, DNN can't start up. So I'm going to do the rest of these from my notes over here. Sorry, where is line 159? There we go. I had these over here ready to copy and paste because I don't want to rethink this in real time. Again, it's almost exact same solution, just add in instance. There's another error on line 181. I'm not going to make you wait for that one. So we're just going to copy and paste that one. Oh, I can see it's the same again. 181, user controller instance dot, and then 198. Oh, same again. Okay. 8 user controller instance dot. I'm going to hit save. We're going to try again. Look carefully here. I'll zoom now because I should have done that sooner. Still waiting for the compile to finish, or blow an error, because I think it's going to blow one more error. Now, here's the thing to notice. Yes, it's a different line, but it's also a different file. And the fix on that one is right here. Oh, I can just drag it. There we go. All right. I'm going to zoom out a little because it's going to show you a very different error. So all we did, okay, slight surprise there. Hold on a second. My DDR menus, line 62. I admit I am surprised by that one. That did not happen last time. So let's go look at that. Oh, because it's sitting in the app code folder. I apologize. I noticed this on my own and fixed it already, but when we recopied the site 5 minutes before I started, we copied it back in again. So I'm just going to delete this. Before, you can see I just renamed it to .cs-not. So in other words, the CS extension is no longer picked up by the compiler. So now one more time without that file in existence, so we don't have to fix it. So again, what I was saying is the compiler just needs to get through any loose files you have. This same thing could apply to Razor host files, .cs/html, anywhere in there. When you spin up, your compiles have to complete without error or DNN can't boot. So now we've made it this far. So we're actually doing the upgrade now. And security check, grade. Notice this looks a little bit fancier. A little bit. Daniel, is this using DNN elements now or no?
No, but
Okay.
default CSS was completely revamped.
That's what the
And
difference was. I couldn't remember that.
yeah, then a lot of CSS was cleaned up in here.
Yeah, there is a new version 10 default.css. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. Yeah,
And
I
that's
noticed.
one of the things to be aware about. We tried to keep as much compatible, but everything that was completely unused in platform, that was written for very old core modules that used to be part of the platform, was cleaned up. I haven't seen anything explode badly, but keep an eye if you see anything that should
Yeah,
have been
because of that, you're
scrapped.
going to see it. That's where you're going to see a handful of modules who
Yeah.
leverage some old DNN styles in their output,
hmm
especially the old MVC
We
output or other stuff. I already noticed one in Evotiva DNN backup.
Exactly. So on
Right.
that instance, we tried to keep the former DNN UI UX patterns that were published. There's a website for that that was all made for jQuery UI, but then it also people also use those classes in their modules and stuff, and it was a recommendation. So we tried to keep compatibility, but we also removed very old CSS that like modern browsers support
No, and
better
I appreciate it.
that are
I'm glad
revamped.
that you did. I think people
And
need to do the extra work at this point.
yes, and on
What?
that specific case of the module you mentioned, it was using a class, but not using the pattern as documented. So
Hey,
the
just
other stuff was missing.
hey, just for everybody's benefit, the site that Daniel's referring to is dnnuiux.com, I believe, and
hmm
it was launched in DNN 6.
Yeah, wow, really?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no way we want CSS that somebody wrote in 2006 or even 2014 still hanging around.
But we still have controls in DNN, like if you go to module settings and stuff like this, that still uses this pattern. So until we stop using it ourselves, it's still gonna live a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Now notice we've lost our theme. So this is really important, the next steps. Um, the reason we are not seeing the error that we need, and this is, again, I got to emphasize, it's really important. You got to log in as a super user. So as long as you can survive and do the login, what are we in Zillion, right? Still? Which
Do you
theme would
mean
this
because
be
you're
right
trying to load
now?
an old skin, or do you
If
want to
it
load Aperture?
No, my theme has failed. I already know that. What
ah
Hmm.
I'm trying to point out to people is to see the error, we need to be logged in. That's the lesson here.
Yeah, yeah. And perhaps with a URL query string to load an alternate skin, such as Aperture or Actually,
I
there's no such anything else. It's such as aperture because Zillion won't run in DNN 10, right?
It
I don't
will.
think
Yeah.
it
It
would.
will.
Would
Okay.
it?
Yeah, it will.
So
Yeah.
on sites that are being
Yeah, this
upgraded,
is DNN
it's
10.
not going to remove Exilium.
Hmm.
It'll still be there. And as a matter of fact, that might actually, because of your template that you use, might actually be the theme that gets loaded by default if yours breaks. So
Well,
just something to
David,
keep in
that
mind.
default template when there's an error is always the default for that version of DNN. It's been Dark Knight over time and then Zillion over time. Within DNN 10, if there's an error in the skin, does it not roll back to by default trying to load
Uh,
Aperture?
that's not 100% true, Ryan. There's
Really?
yeah, it's stored in the database as to what your host level fallback is,
Yeah.
as well as your site defaults. So if somebody has something else, let's say my skin, and they upgrade, but it has Xilium installed, and
And it does.
when they actually ran the template, it set Xilium as the fallback, right? So in
That's
that
correct.
scenario, it will fall back to Xilium instead
So
of my
just
skin.
to point this out visually here, you can see my Accu theme. This is
Yep.
our custom theme. It's about 4 years out of date using Bootstrap, something or other. Failed to load. I already know that. So yes, David's correct. We've fallen back to Zillion, and you can see that not only by what's going on here, but that is obviously Zillion right there.
Yeah, I recognize and agree. So my
Yeah, now
question,
on a fresh install, that won't happen,
That's
obviously.
correct.
Or
You'll
a
get
site
you'll
that
get the
starts in the
beautiful
intent.
new aperture.
Yeah,
interesting. So as a question to the legacy of it, when we were upgrading, I'm trying to remember when we went from Gravity up to Zillion. That during that DNN version, did the DNN upgrade not swap out that fallback to Zillion from Gravity? Or you're saying that because
correct,
it started out
correct,
as a site with Gravity, its fallback is going to stay Gravity unless you change it?
correct. And I
Interesting.
cannot, like, if we could spend hours talking about how bad the template was prior to now in intent,
Okay,
but that
the
is cleaned up now. So yeah,
Excellent. I
I'm gonna
understand. That's
transition
excellent
perfectly
new
from what
information. Thank
David
you.
just said. We have run into a problem here because I made a mistake 6 or 7 years ago when we were creating AccuTheme. It was originally called a Curity template or something. We wanted to support all of the UI skin controls. So I hunted around and found them all. And what we've run into here in 2025 is left menu, which I believe, you don't
yep,
need to correct me, but I
that's
believe it
been
was last
removed.
used in Dark Knight or Gravity and was removed in DNN 10.
Yep,
So
correct,
notice that back to what I was actually doing, could not load theme. This is the error that we could not see before because we were not logged in. So this was a very cool conversation. I appreciate everything you guys just talked through. So we've fallen back to Zillion. We know what the error is now. It might not be as obvious for where you need to go, but we're going to read what's on screen and we're going to start there. So I'm going to go to AccuTheme home.ascx. So here, and everyone knows they probably should be, well, if it's a global theme, it's in portals, default, skins, AccuTheme. So here's home. I'm going to put that in our editor. And we're pretty well zoomed. So the problem is not here, though. The problem is because I think it's going to give us a line number. No, it didn't, damn it. So the problem ends up being in pre-header. Like I said, I already researched all this. So we're now going to go into our includes. We're going to pull up pre-header. Nope, I was wrong. It's in registers. I bet someone who's watching knew that and was like, oh, all right. So there's left menu. We don't actually use it in the theme. As I said earlier, I just went and found them all and thought I was being, smart and special and including them all. So all we need to do is get rid of that one. hit save. We're going to reload. You're going to see one more error. Now nav is the problem. I am going to find nav. See this line? I'm deleting the whole line. Just gone. All I did was get it so that it's not part of the compile process or registers getting on the page the way we do the includes. So if I reload now, you will notice that other than a little too sexy warning on the page, wait for it. That's it. This is too sexy, whining about its patron registration thing. I'm not going to go fix that now because it's not related to your DNN 10 upgrade. Every time you go from version 17 to version 18 to version 19 of Too Sexy, you need to re-register your patron features. We'll hopefully demo that some other time. But as you can see here, slightly customized persona bar, but we are running DNN 10 successfully. We've got all the usual criminals here with 93232 still hanging around. But version 10 down the page, 10.0.0. So you can see all the bright yellows, everything's on 10. I can go to different pages. Anyhow, I've tested this site pretty thoroughly. Once you fix Too Sexy, we do another backup, but this is a successful upgrade. Now, this is really interesting. We do have a broken image. I don't actually remember what that problem was, but let me see if I can spot it really quick. Da-da-da. Let's open the image by itself. Notice the image works on its own, but it is not making it through. Let's try this. 300. Sorry, I'm really curious. I shouldn't be doing this right now. So the image should be loading. I'm going to leave that alone. That's not really relevant. Again, that's deep inside Too Sexy and the image flow. And part of the reason I don't want to do the patron thing is because that will show you a bunch of stuff that I don't want to put into a video that's on YouTube. So, all right, at this point, I'm just going to switch back to the article I'm writing and just kind of wrap up a few different things. So we had two non-obvious errors. So you have to know where to go find the problems. What I want to run through really fast is the best place to look for errors when you don't know what's going on is always start with the admin logs if you can get to them. Another thing that you need to know how to do is if you cannot get here through the persona bar, you need to know how to get there in SQL. So in SQL, you would go to your database, tables, and your event log. And this is the less fun version of things. But you usually come in here.
This is fun. I like the
turn
event.
on some SQL. I don't know if I can include this. And what I usually do immediately when I get in here is add an order by log create date descending. Execute that. And now I can see all the details. So if you go out to, this isn't probably good for the presentation right now, but all of the information you need is in here. This log GUID key will get you into the other event log file. But again, that's beyond the scope of this. But that's the type of stuff you do with your admin logs if you can't see them. Another important one to be comfortable with and be able to find quickly is go to your installer log, which is over here, logs. So this is your installer log, the one we just did. And again, So notice we're in a situation where this is a little hard to read, and there are problems here. No, there's no problems here. This looks pretty good. So you can see all the stuff that happened. The other logs in here. So there is stuff going on that for me, I would probably spend some time researching these and figuring out what's going on and where. Some of them can be innocuous. Some of them you just get used to ignoring. This one looks familiar. We've noticed a few posts about the version numbers of Microsoft BCL async interfaces. If you've been following the issues posted on the DNN platform issues. So maybe there is a problem here that I need to take a closer look at. Again, this one's really interesting because if you don't have your interface and you're looking for problems, that's one you should know. You should know that that one is sitting in default logs. And this is the exact same file. See the file name there? That's 414. Oh, sorry. Normally when I get to this folder, it's already sorted by most recent on top. So this file is exactly the same as this, but that's where these are stored. I usually refer to that as your lower level log or resources log. We did see an example of on-screen. I'm reading from this list over here. We did see an example of on-screen IIS failures. That was the compile stuff. Another one we did not cover, which I was hoping to have time for and set up, but I feel like we're running a bit long. I was going to show you what DNN looks like if you copy in the wrong version of, for example, Newton Soft JSON. That's a common one that people fix all the time.
Boo, hiss, boo.
I know, but I have an article on my site, which I'll share in Discord, and I've shared it before.
Yeah,
Here's what that error would look like, by the way. Ooh,
for
hey,
sure.
my own
Yep.
site to the rescue.
For those of us who have Evativa installed, you'll find that the problem often comes from DNN versions or from other
Yeah,
third-party modules that don't check first that there's a newer version of DNN's of JSON soft installed as DLL, and then they overwrite with an older version.
yeah,
creating
very
chaos. So
common.
you have
And
to update your
this
web
is
config and move from there. So it's not hard, but
no.
boy, it's repetitive.
But I have a lot of advice on this page that that has helped people and would help people. Here's information on turning on that file versions is on this page.
Jeremy, would you add that page to the chat? I'd like to share it later
Yeah,
with our replay.
yeah. I can't even see where the chat is right now.
You can also do later. Thank you.
All right, I'll get that back to you. Don't hesitate to email me if you need to. But anyhow, right here is the advanced version of fixing Newton Soft or other ones that are out of that aren't the right versions. You can either copy in the correct DLL, but that doesn't always work. The more helpful thing to learn how to do, and I remember how much I suffered when I didn't know how to do this 10 years ago, but you can actually do a binding redirect in your web.config so that you can map out, look at this, every version from 0 to 4041 now uses 4041. And here, every version from 4042 to 32,000, the highest number in these ints, uses version 6. And what I sometimes have to point out to people is this second one, that's the DLL you need. Oh, sorry, that keeps happening. That's the DLL that this is going to point to. That's the default one that should be in the bin folder. And the important thing to understand is this 4041 right here uses the code base directive. We've given it that version number, and now this should make sense to everybody. We've told it the path, bin, image flow, and the file name. So we've told it where to go find it. Knowing how to do this is really helpful because there are situations, they're rare, where you need both versions of a DLL in your DNN environment. because DNN and the vendor have gotten out of sync and you don't want to wait for them, you can very carefully map every version number needed to a DLL. And I've got all those instructions on this page if anyone's ever interested. It is not hard. I swear to God, it looks hard. It was hard the first time I did it, but when you get used to it, it's quick and easy. Trust me. And I'm going to finish up by just plugging David again because there's no end to this. NV QuickSight is your greatest friend. If you aren't using it, for God's sake, start installing all the versions of DNN you need on your machine and playing with them. And yeah. Okay, so we successfully upgraded a site to DNN 10. We encountered 2 or 3 really interesting errors, fixed them pretty easily. Theme errors, style errors. And now that we did that, I'm actually going to show you real quick. Will it happen on this one? I'm not sure, but I'm going to go into, I have DNN backup on here from Evotiva, and we're going to see what it looks like. I'm pretty sure. Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Oh,
Everything else works. We're not going to do that right now.
Yeah, give me a second. I was reading it.
Yeah, I don't want to try and solve it right now. I feel like
Right.
we're a little over. So, does anyone have any questions or anything they want to talk about or an area that they feel like needs to be covered more or something interesting they've encountered before?
Do you always make the DNN icons for edit and elements in the persona bar color coded and replace that with the DNN logo, or is that just fun for this demo?
We do it on almost more than 80% of our Actually, I haven't been able to stop people from doing it anymore. It happens on every project now. We love it. Now, in this case, this was early when we were playing and just learned how to do it. We put the Acuity logo up here.
Yeah.
Most of our projects end up with, I don't know if I can pull up one. No, I can't on this machine. But nowadays, we put the client logo in there if they are going to
Nice.
log in and be a content editor. And then we
Okay.
match the colors to their site.
I request a small demo on that in the future as another SoFri tidbit.
Okay.
I think that'd be a nice thing. I know it's possible, but I've never bothered to do it. If I had a good instruction, I would pick up doing that. I like it as an
Yeah.
idea.
So there's 2 ways. One is custom file, and if you want to do the logo, you have to go that route. But DNN10 also offers a styles module, and you can change the colors of the default theme that's on the persona bar. And this is something new in 10 that is
There it is. I've got it.
available to everything. So you have a custom theme, so it's not going to work for you.
Right.
If it was the default theme, you could change your primaries, secondaries, contrast and stuff here, and it would apply in the persona bar.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I love the fact that these exist and that they're using DNN variables to inject in the background, and you can use them or ignore them, and it's all great.
And this is available to any theme, to any third-party extension. It's ambient, and you're free to consume those colors if you want to match the branding preference of the site. This is a per site thing, so if you have multi-portal, you can have different styles. And if you are a host of the site, basically it's a host feature, unless you turn that box on, allow admin edits. So if you are multi-portal and you want to allow your admins to customize them, you have to turn that piece on.
Okay.
Jeremy,
Also want to,
could I ask a question?
sure.
I ran into an interesting problem with one of the latest Too Sexy, Too Shine themes. And it was that there was some, I guess, deprecated stuff in there. And I have a sneaky feeling that when I start to go back into some of my old projects that is based on older and older themes, there'll be other things like that. Is there a nice master list that says, hey, this is deprecated and replaced with this or whatever?
You hit on a great point because honestly, I keep pulling stuff on screen to show people. I have pages like that where I've been trying to build those lists, and I don't know of anything that exists. It would be nice if there was a reference for, you know, they sat there and did a great job over the years of saying this is obsolete, this is deprecated,
Yeah.
but no one tells you what the fix is. No one tells you, unless I'm wrong, but I've never
So
found it.
in the documentation we
The
put in the
smart
code
people like
when
Daniel
we
seem to just know.
when we mark something obsolete in code, if you compile your code, your IDE will spit that out as a warning. Hey, this is
Yes,
obsolete, and we usually put a note, not a paragraph, but a note, use this instead. That
I
usually
have
points you in
seen
the
that.
right
That is
direction.
true.
But
For
if it's,
theme,
yeah,
for Razor, for stuff like this that you don't get an IDE, that's less obvious. There is a tool, if I can remember the name, that could compare two versions of NuGet packages and list all the changes. Let me ask my friend ChatGPT here.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess it was, well, Jeremy weighed in, Daniel, you weighed in, and Timo weighed in, saying, "Oh, this has been replaced with this," which is great. But I don't know if I hadn't had that, all three of you guys telling me what to do, I would have had no idea
Yeah.
Yeah.
where to go.
I'm going to add one last minute tip because I feel like we're over time, but this is worth it because it's one I've even fallen for as recently as 2 years ago. You've got your live site on a server running SQL 2019. You clone it and you're not paying attention over to a SQL Server 2022, or I guess 25 is out now. You get to DNN 10 successfully, and now you want to do a backup and put it back on the server that it was on. That seems like a normal thing to do, correct? Who wants to jump ahead and say what's wrong with this scenario? I have Jared over here where I am raising his hand.
I
Done this
thought if I
before.
used Evotiva backup that I was protected about that sort of stuff,
You
that it was
are,
smart.
If
you
you run the
are
script version,
Yeah,
exactly. If you
the
run
script version,
ACPack, not ACPack,
DAC
DACPack
pack.
or
Yeah, you're
script,
screwed.
you're protected from that. If you use native backup, especially if you do this process manually, when you try and restore your SQL database from 2022 to 2019, you get a big thumbs down and you've got nowhere to go. So I wanted to point it out. I hope it saves somebody from it because in my life, and at least once for Jared, I've wasted so much time on it. Probably 3 times for me, 1 time for Jared, and it's painful. It hurts. And there are ways to get from SQL 2022 back to 2019, but you don't want or need that fun. You don't need that 2 hours of your life wasted, and it could take longer.
um, Jeremy, I know you're kind of saying that we're running long, which we're getting pushing towards the end of 8 o'clock, which is our cutoff time, and we let everyone go back to their evenings and pick up more
Oh, I
DNN
thought
for the
that,
next time. But let me throw a quick question at you that Mark Gilsing put online real quick, and
sure.
he put out the hypothetical and said, okay, so what happens if, what does it look like if you do this upgrade to DNN 10 and during the process, there's actually still a module installed that needs and requires Telerik, and therefore Telerik still existed inside of that instance. Does the DNN just die? Does that module not work? Does it create local problems on whatever pages might be displaying, or is it global? What kind of signs can we point people to that says, hold on, you've gotten to a certain point, but you need to back all the way up and continue working through your Telerik first?
Yeah, I gotta say, avoid that on DNN 10.
Obviously.
You've got to get Telerik out of there by the time before you leave 9.13.8. You've got to get out, you've got to get it out of there beforehand.
So if you've forgotten, what does it look like? Anybody
It's
know?
just the same as version
Daniel?
9.
With
Just
10, it will force uninstall, and whatever is broken,
all
but
right.
it's forced
And
removal.
and I would suggest that it's very likely DNN will not be able to start up. You'll either have compilers, you'll be throwing errors because it's the
Things
same
are
as removing
requesting the
DLLs and
Telerik that's not
methods.
present.
Yeah.
But potentially, not always. We ran tests to make sure that it worked right. So any extension that uses Telerik will be broken. If that is not on the page you're visiting, nothing gets called from Telerik. You should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you go to that page, either the module explodes or everything explode. But yeah, we're forcing Telerik removal. So
Okay. All right.
Thank God.
yeah, and that, by the way, we're forcing Telerik removal of the old library that came with DNN. So
Mhm.
if you have your own Telerik license and you have modern stuff, that should stay in place. But if you run into problems with that, let us know, but it should stay in place.
If anyone's interested and wants to write it down, we do have a site that is not indexed by Google called accu4.com, ACCU number 4.com. There's now a DNN menu, DNN 10, and most of the things you've just seen me show are visible to the public. So if you wanted to get a nightly build of DNN, I have the instructions here, thanks to Daniel Vladas. The thing about new roles and role names, this affected us, but did not create an error. And here's the issue upgrades that you just saw me work through. As we go through other upgrades, I expect to expand this page. And quite literally, I'm very anal about this. I will keep adding every single fix I have to do to this page. So it may end up being a good reference for something you might run into. I would say you won't run into this first one though, because that was all on us. We just had old code sitting in the app code folder, stuff we weren't even using.
There's also a lot of other good information out there, Jeremy. As somebody that's fairly new, I visit the site periodically for other information that you've got out there.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. I'm sad that I still haven't fixed it being indexed by Google. I didn't want it to when I created it because I thought it was all in-house stuff.
You
But
should.
we're redoing it. This site is about to get a redo into our new Accu theme Tailwind. Have a good night. Thank you. Sorry, that was saying goodbye to somebody here.
Oh, I thought you were like, that's it. Drop the mic. I'm done.
Yeah. But you can see some of our experiments here with Tailwind 4. This is early stuff. Well, I say it's early stuff, but it's only a month or two ago. Look at this. Reminders, no Bootstrap, no jQuery. If we do view page source and we see either of those, we're doing something wrong. We have a lot of goals with this new theme we're doing. So anyhow, ooh, this is recent. Look at that. Look how beautiful my no dependencies. And these are all of the dev dependencies so far. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
All right, I'll shut up. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on this site. I hope people benefit from it. It's going to be more well organized in the next version.
But you should index it. There's some pieces here that are just gold.
Thank you.
Jeremy, I'm getting lost just looking at stuff like, avoid text in images that already have text in them. And I'm like, oh yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Yep, there's just little things all over. Now I'm gonna eat up a couple of hours looking into all of these.
This is my proudest one. Look at this. Too sexy advanced image resize. Wrote my own God, I'm sorry, we're way off course here.
Okay, well, I tell you what, let's wrap it up and bring it back into DNN community within Southern Fried, and we can tap Jeremy for about 3 more good so fries later this year, based on half the things we've just seen tonight.
You haven't seen his list. It's about 10 or 12 long. So we could basically just let Jeremy have this meetup from here on.
Too much pressure and responsibility, and sometimes, just like you guys, I get very busy some months, and it's hard to do.
Well, everybody, give Jeremy Farrance here a round of applause. Thank you very much for spending some time and sitting in the hot seat to do a live upgrade and fix things on the fly. That is always a challenging thing to do and makes you sweat. But it's fun to see that work out, and we got to see someone go through DNN 10 and start thinking reflexively about the differences or things that we'll encounter on our own DNN 10 upgrades. I actually have not done an official one yet, but I can imagine here that in the next month or so, I'll have several. So I'm looking forward to this and practicing and learning and seeing where we can add to some of this information. If you're watching at home, do know that we'll be posting the information from this on the southernfried.com website so that you can reach any of the sites and references that Jeremy has mentioned, as well as a transcript for bullet points for tonight's video. So thank you very much for spending time with us, everyone, both here in person and online later on in the replays. As always, we meet the third Thursday of every month. So that means that our next one is heading out in the middle of May. That will be May the 15th, will be our next Southern Fried DNN user group meetup. And by then, maybe we'll all have, each of us, some more practice in DNN 10. And we're looking forward to getting together with everyone again. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Have a great one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Drive safe, Dave. We
Thanks,
need to,
everybody.
see a good video snapshot of where you are when we do our next Southern Fried.